Welcome to Beards and Bibles, guys. My name's Johnny, and
I'm Andy.
Yeah. And today we're going to talk about kind of a controversial subject, but one that we are excited to talk about.
Yeah.
So welcome to the show.
Yeah.
It must be remembered that we are in the preliminary stage of one of the greatest battles in history. That the air battle is continuous, and that many preparations have to be made here too. You ask what is our policy? I will say it is to wage war by sea, land, and air, with all our might, and with all the strength that God can give us.
So, today we want to talk to you guys about Christian music. Now, specifically, what's that been, like 2 weeks ago? We actually reached out to everybody on our Facebook page, and we asked, what is your thoughts about modern Christian music? We got some good comments from it. We got one here's from Kevin Chipley. He says, as you are probably aware, we go to a lot of concerts. I've heard many bands that were terrible garage type bands who obviously turned to Christian music as it's easier to break out. Other groups I've seen have been fantastic. I grew up in a Baptist church where anything but piano, organ, or guitars is frowned upon. I like some modern music, but some are obviously playing the game.
Yeah.
And, honestly, that's part of the reason that we wanted to talk about this today. Another guy says, my thoughts on modern Christian music are simple. A lot of it's labeled as Christian, but they're really Jesus is my boyfriend kind of songs. I just want to point out to the person that left that comment, you are not the first person to say that. Not by a long shot, and you probably won't be the last. However, I do enjoy a whole lot of modern stuff. I just think if you write a song about Jesus, it shouldn't be ambiguous just to make money. A song about God should have his name in it, or at least a direct reference.
Yep.
So the funny thing is, the reason that we decided to have this conversation on the podcast today is it's been something that has been on my heart for a really long time when it comes to modern Christian music. It was a conversation that a few friends of myself had a few years ago about how a lot of Christian music is ambiguous, and it's a big reason that you don't find a lot of men that specifically get into mainstream Christian music. And it's specifically because of the whole idea that you can't tell sometimes when you're listening to a song, is this about Jesus? Is this about my boyfriend? What's this song about? And it kind of seems that as time has went on, it's gotten a little bit more ambiguous. I'm sorry, but the best way to say it is that Christian music
It's generic.
It's been watered down. It's kind of the same thing with all music today, and maybe that's just us being audio snobs or whatever you want to call it, but it's just the way we feel. And it's actually a really great time to mention this. We actually have a special guest with us today, and I'm going to go ahead and have him join in now. This is our special guest. This is our friend Ted Whitehead. The reason that we brought Ted on today, Ted, can you hear us? Ted, are you there? Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Ted, the reason that we brought you on is because, honestly, we've all played music together before. I say play in a very loose sense because I am the guy in the back, just mixing faders around. But we all have a very extensive background in music. I know I went to Eastern Kentucky University for a while and was a music major there. I grew up playing the saxophone in school. I loved music. Johnny, you've played music your entire life. Ted, I think you've played music your whole life as well. Now, the big difference between me and these guys is these guys actually have talent. Whereas I just like to be the guy behind the scenes, literally and figuratively, criticizing everything. And that's what we're here to do today. We're here to actually criticize some Christian music. Ted, that's what we were talking about just a moment ago, is that with Christian music, we feel that as time has went on, it's actually been watered down quite a bit. It's Christian music, modern mainstream Christian music is very ambiguous. You don't know what sometimes when you're listening to a song, if it is a song about Jesus or if it's a song about your boyfriend or, what's going on in there. And I actually pulled up some lyrics from like 3 really popular modern Christian songs. These are songs that have been released within the last 5 to 10 years. They're chart toppers. Popular. And in fact, I'd say that we have sang them, all 3 of them, in our church.
I guarantee. I know 2 of them at least.
Yeah. So here's one, and I'm gonna go ahead and be honest. Like, these lyrics are gonna be controversial. I'm sure people are gonna get ticked off at us for talking about this. Okay,
and it's nothing against the song. It's nothing against the artist. It's just we're using this as a point,
as an
example of what we're talking about.
So this is lyrics from Lauren Daigle. You say, I keep fighting voices in my head that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. You say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short. When I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe. What you say of me, I believe. I'm very touched right now, Johnny.
Yeah.
I feel like we should hold hands or something. I don't know. But there's one thing about that song. Like, there's one key element missing from that song. Now, this is a worship song, right? But what's the key element that's missing from this worship song?
It never says the name Jesus in it.
Not once.
It doesn't say God. It doesn't say Savior. It basically is just talking to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, you could literally write that song for your girlfriend.
I could literally say those same words to my wife, Rebecca, and it'd be it'd have the same vibe.
He'd be set for the night.
Yeah.
Here's another one. This is by Delirious? ? I could sing of your love forever. And it literally just, it just repeats that the majority of the time. I could sing of your love forever. I could sing of love forever. Over the mountains and the seas, your river runs with love for me, and I will open up my heart, and I will let the healer set me free. Gosh, Ted, I feel like you've just healed me inside. And once again, it's just really ambiguous, okay? Here's one, and listen, I didn't even want to really bring this one up because I actually love this dude's music.
I love this song.
David Crowder Band, How He Loves. He is jealous for me, loves like a hurricane, and I am a tree, bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. Now, this one,
it's closer.
It's a lot closer. But then he has to go and bring in that sloppy wet kiss. And, that just kind of, I'm sorry, but, I love Jesus. But I don't want any dude coming up to me and giving me a sloppy wet kiss on the mouth. Just not my thing. It's not for me.
Well, there, I kind of see the reference because heaven meets earth like a sloppy wet kiss. Sloppy wet kiss, that's a passion. That's passion. And he's meaning it in more of just the sloppy wet kiss. You got to think of, if I was to kiss my wife and I was, it was to get, a sloppy wet kiss, it wouldn't be just something regular. It would be something special.
If I did that, my wife would probably look at me and say, have you ever done this before?
I'm just saying.
Well, I think with that lyric, I can see that they're trying to paint a picture in our minds of what that would be. Now, did they paint the picture in the best way possible? A lot of the church world would debate that. Okay. What we actually changed the lyric, the whole church world changed the lyric. Well, I guess maybe Crowder actually changed the lyric when everybody made an uproar.
Yeah, it went from
unforeseen
kiss. Now, whether you say sloppy wet or unforeseen kiss, if it's unforeseen, it's probably going to be a little bit sloppy anyway.
Right.
But I could see that that picture that they were trying to paint. And for me, I don't know. I'm on the fence about that lyric, because that lyric is probably something that he really felt in his heart when he was making that song.
Undoubtedly.
You know,
I mean, like that song is written by John Mark McMillan, and anybody in the Christian world knows that, like, that dude's like a powerhouse of Christian songwriting. Like he's behind a lot of popular Christian lyrics. So I mean, so it's not anything that I'm trying to hate on the guy at all.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, it's, you know, it's just I more or less want to use that as an example. And I think the biggest thing, besides the ambiguous lyrics that we get now, is the lack of depth that you get in modern Christian music. I mean, I could sing of your love forever. I mean, like, literally, I have seen churches sing that song, and that song go for 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 of those minutes are dedicated to people just saying, I could sing of your love forever. I could sing of your love forever. I could sing of your love forever. And I think it's honestly a symptom of something that we've seen in, you know, mainstream music or not, you know, the non-secular world. Is that right? Non-secular or secular music? Secular music is the mainstream music, what you see on most radio stations. I mean, you're getting the same thing in a lot of pop music. You know, it's really boils down to like 2 simple sets of verses and then a chorus that just repeats on end, and then the chorus getting broken up and repeating that a few times, and then maybe going back to the first verse. And I guess one of the biggest problems I have with modern Christian music today is the lack of depth. And I don't just have it with modern Christian music. I have it with pretty much all modern music. I mean, when you think of songs like Amazing Grace, not only is Amazing Grace like just a great song, and most people at least know the first verse of Amazing Grace, but I mean, like, there's the story behind Amazing Grace that is just absolutely amazing. Yeah. I mean, you know, John Newton, is that not the one where he writes it on a boat where he thinks he's going to drown? Or am I thinking of
see, you put us on the spot here on live video.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull up the Wikipedia. You guys keep talking here for a second.
Well, while he's doing that, my thing with modern Christian music, don't get me wrong, I have felt the presence of God in many songs, like from, you know, Elevation, Carry Joe. There's a Hillsong song called Even When It Hurts. There's so many new songs that, even though it may not mention the word Jesus or God, that there's, you know, they can still be very effective. So just want to throw that out there. But
and we can go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, one thing that kind of jumped out at me right there is, you know, not every Bible scripture says the name Jesus. Not every Bible scripture says the name God. You know, and so we could literally sit and read the Bible for 2 hours straight, maybe. Well, if you're jumping around, I guess, and not really see the name Jesus.
I mean, look at the Book of Esther. I mean, the Book of Esther is a great example because God is not mentioned in the Book of Esther one single time. Well,
so that's where it kind of, to me, it's like these songs may, you know, as ambiguous as they may be, these songs, I think, are meant for good for the most part. And now believe me, there's still controversy on whether this one is actually a Christian artist. Okay, whether they're just making music with good lyrics. I know there's a whole controversy around Lauren Daigle, whether or not she is actually a Christian artist or whether she is just an artist making Christian music. I
Or just
don't know.
A Christian making music that just happens to
Or
sound
just
worship.
a Christian making music that just sounds to be like worship. And that's the thing. But to me, I think it's all a thing of where our personal hearts are at. You know, I think back to the verse, and I won't quote the whole thing, but it says, think on whatever things are pure and whatever things are honest and whatever things are just, and think on these things, you know, whatever things are of good report and all that stuff. And so it kind of pushes me to think, okay, when I think about my children, do I want them listening to a song by Lauren Daigle that says, I believe, you know, you say I'm loved when I don't feel loved, you know, you say I'm held when I don't feel held, you know, or do I want them listening to, I don't know, let's kick it back old school, like Master P, you know, make them say, you know what I mean? Like, what do I want my kids listening to?
Yeah.
And
you think about Master P and you're like, nah.
And I don't know why. I don't know why that's the first name that popped into my head. I'm sure there's other more relevant artists I could have named, but in that moment, I think, okay, as ambiguous as it may be, is that still planting a seed in somebody's heart because of what they perceive from the song? You know, they're not talking about getting drunk and getting high and sleeping around and all that stuff. And so what does it mean to me in my heart? You know what I mean? And that, hey, I'm not even gonna lie. You Say by Lauren Daigle, it's a good song. It's a good song, and I agree with Johnny. We've played it in church multiple times.
Yeah.
We have played those songs, and I think for me, it's just about, regardless of who makes it and regardless of their agenda, am I using it to worship the Lord? You know what I mean? And I guess we kind of get on dangerous territory here talking about this kind of stuff because it can be a very controversial issue in today's time.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are dogging Elevation and Bethel and all that stuff, and what their theology is and what they actually believe and all this stuff. And really, for me, I don't care what they believe. If that song can glorify God, then the exact details of their theology is almost irrelevant.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It's funny that you mentioned that because my mama, whenever I was real young, she used to worship God to a Celine Dion song, Because You Love Me. She said that had better Christian lyrics, or better lyrics that she would want to sing to God than most of the stuff that's sung in church. And she would straight up just turn it on and worship God to it because she sung it to Him. And those lyrics are pretty good. You know, if they was to be put into a modern worship song today with, you know, some pads and synth and, you know, worship style element in the music, that song would be fire. I mean, no lie.
It would be Lauren Daigle made over.
It sure would.
Yeah.
It sure would.
I think about that song, The Wind Beneath My Wings. Do you ever know that you're my hero?
But, you know,
Andy, that's why you're in the sound booth, buddy.
That's exactly why I'm in the sound booth.
But, you know, we touched on some things about, like, bands that claim to be Christian, bands that are Christians but just sing music. Now, you know, whether Lauren Daigle is whatever she is, I know that, you know, God's using her anyway.
Right.
But there's bands like Flyleaf, U2,
Switchfoot,
Creed, you know, that have claimed to be, you know, Christian people, but have
it's very questionable,
especially with Creed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every one of them have a song. Even Paramore, they early on in their careers, they sung songs that could have been, Christian songs. But and when asked, "Are you a Christian band?" they're all the time like, "We're Christians as people, but we just play music."
Right.
And myself, there is nothing wrong with the lyrics that they put out. I mean, they've always had positive, encouraging, or songs, stuff about love, and not lust, lyrics. And myself, I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't think every song has to sound the exact same, has to have the same exact lyrics. That's why I think most of modern Christian music, people that grew up in like our times, that was, we had the jams going on. I mean, almost everything was fire growing up. I mean, we grew up with the Dr. Dre's, the Metallicas, the Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin, and everything that we grew up listening to was awesome.
Yeah.
And now everything sounds the same, whether it be pop, whether it be rock, whatever it is, R&B.
And the bad thing is that's not exclusive to the secular world. I mean, that's happening in the Christian world too.
Exactly.
I mean, and it's not even just Christian pop. It's not even just Christian worship music. I mean, Johnny and I, like, we've talked extensively. Like, one of my favorite bands to listen to when it comes to the Christian genre, I love listening to Skillet. Now, you ask Johnny about Skillet, and he's going to tell you that Skillet sounds like every other rock band out there. They stole from Breaking Benjamin, and I get that.
In my opinion, they are the kind of people that went after a certain style, a certain sound of a certain band, which is Breaking Benjamin, and put it in a Christian genre and became popular, became the GOAT of the Christian style. Now, to me, they're just ripoffs. And, that right there, they may be certain, have a certain spiritual walk or whatever. I'm not saying that they don't, but I am saying that because they sound like a popular secular band, I think that it draws attention to them, and it was easier for them to get signed or whatever. I don't know.
Well, but I mean, like, you could also use that, though. I mean, look at Lauren Daigle. Like, Lauren Daigle,
she sounds like Adele.
She sounds like Adele. You listen to, like, if you go into the Christian hip hop world, NF sounds like Eminem.
Yeah, kind of.
Straight up.
And I mean, like, and it's not to say that any of those three artists are bad at what they do.
Right.
Like, they're all good. Like, all three of those groups are good at what they do. I mean, and I think that's one of the reasons, like, I like Skillet because Skillet's a little bit harder, but I mean, I also love to listen to Christian hip hop. I know that, Ted also listens to it. I mean, and even, with some of the Christian hip hop songs, I mean, as much as we love them, like, we know that they're not really talking about Jesus or focusing on Jesus in that song.
Well, and that's what, we can rag on Lauren Daigle all day long, but Andy Mineo has some lyrics that make people drop their chin to the floor.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I think everybody, but I think almost, and if this doesn't get me in trouble with the Christian world, I think sometimes the truth will make you drop your chin to the floor.
That is true.
Okay. Andy Mineo, we went to Forward Conference, okay? And he made a reference about him and his wife practicing to have a baby, okay? There's only one thing you can do to practice to have a baby.
He said, I need y'all to quit asking when me and my wife's going to have some kids. And he said, right now we just practicing. And I mean, he did the gesture and everything.
He did the gesture and everything. And the whole place went, oh, like everybody lost
the whole crowd erupted. Half of them walked out, the other half just kept cheering.
You just see like youth leaders everywhere in the thing, just like, oh my Lord.
That was a youth conference.
Did he just say that?
Yeah, it was a youth conference.
Yeah, that was a youth conference. But
that's the thing.
This is my take on that. Okay? Would I rather my kids listen to people in the world, kids at school talk about that stuff, or would I rather them hear it from a man that does follow after Christ? And I say that about Andy Mineo because I listen to a lot of his music, and he is very, very in tune with his marriage, and he is very secure in who God has called him to be in his marriage and that kind of stuff. And so would I rather have my kids hear about that stuff from somebody at school that doesn't know the Lord and is going to use all kinds of profanities and everything, or would I rather them hear about that stuff in a youth conference from Andy Mineo, a person that they can look up to?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, we had that. Like, I was there at that conference with Ted, and literally the very next day, was it Levi Zek? No, it was Levi Lusko, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Levi Lusko gets up, and I mean, he preaches a whole sermon to a room full of teenagers about sex. And I mean, there was a lot of people that got offended by that, but I'm sitting there going, they have to hear about it somewhere. Would you rather them not hear about it from a pastor or from a Christian influencing person versus some kid at school, or even worse, the internet?
Well, the thing is most of the time, as soon as they hit middle school, they know about it.
Oh yeah,
they're not stupid.
And that's the thing. And nowadays, there's not a lot of parents willing to talk to their kids about it anymore either.
Exactly.
So they're going to hear it from one or the other. They're not getting the truth from their parents. They're getting it from one extreme or the other extreme. And which extreme do you want them to have? I'll tell you my own personal experience with that. We lived in Indiana when I was 8 to 10. Okay, we lived in Indiana, and we lived right across the street from a park. Okay, and there's a whole lot of teenagers in that area, a whole lot of kids, everything. And there was things that I don't care to mention, I don't want to say in this video, that were carved onto these picnic tables at the park. Okay, words and symbols and pictures, and I like to read pictures. Okay, so I see all this stuff, and then I start asking my friends. Okay, 9, 10 years old, I knew everything because of some picnic tables at the park.
Yeah.
But my parents, bless their hearts, never had that conversation with me. And so I learned about things like that from sources that I never should have learned them from.
Yeah.
And so music can be an expression of the truth, whether it makes people happy or upset. And that's the thing is, I tell people all the time. Actually, I told somebody this morning, we were talking about something, is I will stand here and tell the truth when the world is on fire. Whether it costs me my life or not, I'm going to tell the truth. Yeah. And there's even some messages that I have preached where I say something and I can tell I just lost half the congregation because sometimes the truth hurts.
Yeah, we've all three been there.
Yeah, and we've all been there. And so that's the thing is, with music, it's like, even all the way down to Skillet, man. Honestly, my one of my experiences with Skillet, I went to their concert. Well, it was Winter Jam a couple years ago. I don't know, Andy, if you went.
It was 3 years ago that we went.
Yeah, they had a big concert, and they started singing this song. What's it called? I've had enough, or I'm sick. Oh, sick of it.
Sick of it. Yeah.
Sick of it. And before they went into the song, they showed a video clip up on the screens of them being on tour with all these other secular artists, 9 Inch Nails and all these other people. I couldn't name you who all was in it. And they go on tour with these people, okay? And I get it. It is an outlet for you to maybe shine a light in a dark place, okay? That's their reasoning for going on tour with these people. But, man, when they showed this video clip, I think it was actually the lead singer of 9 Inch Nails, and I could be completely wrong. I'm not big into the rock genre. But when this guy came up on the screen, every teenager in that building erupted with praise when that guy popped up on the screen. And we are in a Christian event.
Trent Reznor.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there thinking, they almost got louder for him than they did anything that happened in that entire concert. And it's like, if we are really shining a light in the dark world, I don't even want to bring up the dark. You know what I'm saying? If I'm really trying to give praise and glory to God in that moment, which we should be in our lives every day, 24/7, I don't even want to bring that up. Why did they have to make that video?
Yeah.
Well, and then sing a song about being sick of the things happening in the world?
Well, see,
why did we have to go there?
That's the thing, Ted. Is because Sodom and Gomorrah. Whenever he said, "You find me such and such, righteous in the city," he kept going in and going in and going in. It didn't work. It never worked. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't find nobody. So, and he destroyed the city. So basically, like a band Flyleaf, I love them. I like them. Some of their songs, like "All Around Me," I feel like she's talking to God there. But it's talking about your presence being all around me. She said that it's about me. But anyway, they've been on tour with Slipknot, which I've went and seen Slipknot before, and I've listened to a lot of secular bands. You know why? Because their music's great. I mean, just saying. But whenever a Christian band goes on a big tour with all these other people, most of the time it's for money. I mean, I'm just saying, because
that's where
every time that I've ever seen a Christian band, out on a secular tour, they've never mentioned God once. And if you notice their lyrics, it doesn't say, they most of the time don't say Jesus in a song or God in a song. They're there to fit in, to make money, and they're shooting themselves in the foot is what they're doing.
Well, potentially. Now, I will say this. I went to a concert a few years ago, and I think it was a Newsboys concert, and the group that opened up for them, or one of the groups that opened up for them, was it's a group that no longer exists, but it was Family Force 5.
Yeah, I've seen them before.
I think that was at Winter Jam, bro.
I didn't see. I think it was a different one that I went to, but I mean they went, and I remember there was a lady there with me, and she looked at me because I mean, like, all the kids around us while Family Force 5 is playing, they're getting into it. They're loving it, and I mean, like, literally, there was no way whatsoever that you could construe any of those songs to be referencing, Jesus at all. Rip it like a chainsaw. I'm pretty sure that Jesus was a carpenter, so I mean, maybe if you want to take a really vague approach to it, carpenters using a chainsaw, whatever. But
what does that even mean?
Yeah, but she looks at me and she goes, "Do you get anything out of this?" I was like, "Well, the music's pretty good." She's like, "Yeah, but do you feel like you're closer to God?" I said, "Do I particularly feel like I'm closer to God?" I said, "No." I said, "But your kid down there, 2 rows down," I said, "who's really getting into this and is really going to get into the next band that plays that really talks about Jesus," I said, "they are getting drawn closer to God." And I think there are some bands out there that may not be their intention, but that may be the purpose that God uses them for, as a gateway to find other music. I mean, like, that's why I think Skillet is so popular, because they are an alternative to Breaking Benjamin, to the Foo Fighters. If you still want to be able to rock out, but listen to something about God, listen to Skillet. If you still want to be able to feel like a thug, rolling on 20s or whatever, you put on NF and Andy Mineo and Wavi and all these other guys. I don't know all these people, but I mean, like, you put those guys on, and it lets you be comfortable. Now, I mean, we've talked about Christian hip hop. I mean, a lot of those guys will talk about real life situations. And I mean, there's very few of those songs that are actually worship songs. Very few of the Christian rock songs are worship songs. So, I mean, I do think that worship music plays a very specific purpose. It has a very specific purpose. But
I think for me, there's always been a difference. When I'm listening to Christian rap, I'm not lifting my hands in worship. Okay. Andy Mineo, one of Andy and Mineo's last albums, I love it. I had it on repeat, and I was out putting together a dining table and chairs while I listened to that whole album. You know, when I listen to that stuff, it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't put me in a mode of worship, okay? But it does fix my mind on things of God, okay? It does put my mind in the right perception that it needs to be in. But I'm not going, sitting there, I'm coming in hot. I'm coming in hot.
Right.
What, number one, what does that even mean? Okay. But anyway, but it's like, man, worship music can take you to a whole nother level. And I know people say, well, why do we need 24 parts in of a guitar in a song to step into worship? Why do we need pads and ambiance to step into worship? And why do we need all that stuff? The truth is we don't, okay? Right. We don't. But it creates an atmosphere for us to be able to step into. Mm-hmm. And honestly, if I'm standing in worship in surrender to God, my arms lifted and my eyes closed, and I'm really seeking after the Lord, in that moment, really, I'm not going to say that the lyrics don't matter, because if you put a bad word right in the middle of a worship song, you're going to catch it, okay? Yeah. And it's going to throw you out of worship.
Right.
But in that moment, that's me and God together, and those lyrics are what I'm singing to Him. Whether it says His name or whether it doesn't, if I'm using it for the sole purpose of worship, now that gets vague. I mean, you start talking about other people and whether their lyrics could be like Johnny, and I'm not saying anything against Granny, but you're talking about Celine Dion. I don't know. I don't know if you could really say that I stepped into worship in that song, okay? But I think it's because of the perception everybody knows who Celine Dion is.
Well, I mean, okay. The lyrics are very similar to You Say. I mean,
right. Very, and that's why I was saying, like, it would be Lauren Daigle all over again.
Right.
You know?
And I think with all these worship songs, there's two key factors that play into it. Number one, you've got the intent of the person who wrote the song and performed it. But then you've also got the intention of the person who is using it to praise. So in that case, I mean, the intent of the person using it to praise outweighs the intention of the person who wrote the song.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think a lot of times it demands a good equilibrium between the two.
It does because, okay, you know, I was a youth pastor for almost 3 years, I guess. And I deal with these youth, and they ask you questions about that stuff, okay? And they say, well, if I mean it for good, then what does it matter what they say? You know, kind of it's combating the perception that we have in this moment right now that we're talking about. Why can't I listen to I don't know, why can't I listen to Selena Gomez and use that as worship or something like? Because kids do. Kids want to make themselves feel justified.
Right.
Okay. And so, but that's the thing. It has to do with the intent of the artist to some shape, form, or fashion. Okay, because if you're talking about getting high and drinking, obviously they were not intended to give worship to God in that song. Okay.
I'm pretty sure, like,
but you get a song like Celine Dion where "Did You Know You're My Hero" and all this stuff, and it's a very uplifting and motivational song, if you will, and very, very, it pulls at your heartstrings and that kind of thing. You know, maybe do we ever know anybody's intentions but by their actions?
right.
Since you mentioned stuff like that, whenever I listen to music, I listen to it with, I've got to the point to where if I can't listen to it with my kids, then I've just got to where my conscience doesn't let me listen anymore. I won't listen to it. Like if it's a dirty, nasty song, or if it's talking about, you know, sex and, you know, stuff like that, then I won't let myself listen to it anymore. Now, do I listen to secular bands, secular music? Yeah, the ones that I can feel good about listening to my kids with. You know what I'm saying? If it's not talking about, you know, doing something to some honey, or, you know, something,
Getting high, stealing,
and it's all about worldly things, then yeah, I'll listen to it, because you know why? I like music. I like music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, especially 90s. I even like the 2000s rock stuff. But if it weighs on me, on my conscience, that's like right or wrong, like I feel bad about listening to this song, then I won't, you know, I won't listen to it.
right.
But I do listen to other things.
I think that's a good gauge.
Yeah.
I think that's a good gauge is like, okay, should my kids hear this? If they shouldn't hear it, then I shouldn't hear it.
Exactly.
Because, you know, the Bible tells us to come to Jesus as a child, okay, like with the heart of a child. And so if we have that heart of a child and we say, okay, my children shouldn't be listening to this, then we shouldn't either.
Right.
That, you know, you're kind of, that would be very hypocritical of us to say, no, you can't, but I can, which we do that a lot with our children, by the way. We say, do as I say, not as I do, which is completely jacked up, and I find myself feeling guilty of that sometimes. But man, music is like this. It's like this thing, man, where you can never really pinpoint, you know, and people have controversy over this one, and people are ragging on that one, and people are judging this one, and that's the thing that we have to be careful of. I think for me, the bottom line of all this when it comes to music is what we have to be careful of is judging the heart of somebody. Okay, even down to Lauren Daigle, whether or not she wants to claim herself as such, she might have reasons for that, which I wouldn't understand. Why don't, if you want to be a Christian artist, just come out and say you're a Christian artist. If you're going to sing Christian music, you're a Christian artist. I don't get why that's such a thing.
Well, I think she can do kind of, you know, songs to Jesus and songs, you know, how she feels about worship or whatever, and take the label off of it and reach more people with just spreading love and positivity, because she's breaking records, dude.
Well, and I get that, and I agree with you to an extent, but I'll tell you why. Because we all know this, we're ministers, okay? In the Bible, it says to be ye separate.
Yeah.
Okay? And the thing for that is that comes from the word holy. Holy means separate, okay? And it says come out from among them. And so for me, I feel that's like we have to make sure that we are being separate. Okay,
Right.
Not that we want to label ourselves, but if I want people to know that I'm a follower of Christ, they don't see my everyday life, they don't see my actions, they don't see how I live, and so I feel like I have to put that out there to let people know, hey, I am not one of these other people. The Bible tells me to be separate, and so for me, I wouldn't have a problem saying I am a Christian artist.
Me too.
Whether that causes me to lose airtime or money or respect or whatever that is. Okay, we do that right now. We say we're a minister, and people look at us funny. Okay, we're involved in the church, and that's our life, and all this stuff. And people are like, "Oh my God, we pay tithes to the church." That, oh my gosh, yeah. People look at us funny because we have a label,
Right?
Okay, and so I feel like that is the cost, if we will. That is the cost of following Christ, is to be separate and come out from among them and put a label on it. Why are we scared to put a label on it? You know? But yeah, I mean, that's where I think we have to be very careful about how we judge people, number one, because we never know the intent of somebody's heart for real. But the Bible does say that you can judge them by their fruits. Okay, yep. Judge them by what happens from their life. Well,
we know
judge their heart.
We know that being a minister, being somebody in leadership, people are watching you every second that you're out in public. Every time they see you, like if you was to lose your cool or something at a restaurant over something that really wasn't even your fault. If someone in the congregation seen you, it spreads like a wildfire. That guy ain't as he is.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, like in this area, we've talked about drinking before. I mean, like there's I have a friend right now that goes to a church in Richmond, Kentucky. He's a deacon in one of these churches. And, the pastor looked at him and said, "Listen, the official stance on the church is that we don't drink." Mm-hmm. He was like, "So what I'm going to say to you is I better not ever catch you in a restaurant anywhere nearby drinking."
Yeah.
Because they've got an image that needs to be upheld. Mm-hmm. And that may not be the best usage of shining your light versus making sure that you always present your best self and everything. But I mean, it's a good example.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you don't want to be out and let your image go down, because being a minister, your image is a big deal. I mean, and it's not putting on a front. It's you setting an example, you guarding your life.
And I think too, I want to, if you guys don't mind, I want to change that word image to integrity.
Well, you're a guest. Do whatever you want.
I don't want my integrity to be hurt. I think sometimes when we say the word image, it's almost like we're putting up a fake picture sometimes when we say the word image. Mm-hmm. To me, it's a standard. It's the standard of my integrity.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think if Jesus had come along today, like in today's times, instead of it just saying guard your heart, it'd probably say guard your heart in your social media.
Yeah. Yeah, and your browser history.
And your browser history.
And your browser history. And that doesn't mean delete it either. Okay,
Hey, what do you think about John Steingard?
Who?
The lead singer of Hawk Nelson, saying he's not a Christian anymore.
Honestly, I don't watch the news, and I haven't been on social media that much, so I didn't really even know anything about it. I know you said something.
Yeah, I've got
one of you guys said something last week.
Yeah, Andy's got his Instagram post. Basically,
I've never even listened to him.
Dude, more than the drops in the ocean, they sing so many popular songs. That's all over K-Love, all over Air One. Like, they are popular and have been popular for a long time.
Yeah.
And for a guy that has been in the worship scene for so long, I mean, probably 15 years.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Sorry. It just hit me what song that was. More than the drops in the ocean. Ooh.
That's
Yeah.
the one. That's the one.
Well, that's
Okay.
just one
All
of
right.
their many songs.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
lead singer came out during this pandemic. He says that if the pandemic didn't happen, he wouldn't have, and they was not touring or whatever, he wouldn't have been able to admit that he doesn't believe in God anymore. Go ahead and read him the tweet.
Yeah, it says, and I'm actually reading from Christian Post, their coverage of it. But yeah, on his Instagram, he posted, I no longer believe in God, and said that it didn't happen overnight. Didn't happen overnight. He said, I've agonized over whether to say this publicly, and if so, how to do it. But now I feel that it's less important how I do it and more important that I do it.
Yeah.
He grew up in a Christian home. He was a pastor's kid. He's playing and sung in Christian bands. And he's always had the word Christian in front of most of the things that he's done in his life. And he says, I'm now finding that I no longer believe in God. Now, the thing is, with this John Steingart, it reminds me of the sermon that I preached. What's that been? It's been back in November.
Yeah, it's been 7-8 months ago.
Yeah. And the sermon that I preached was talking about Marty Sampson. Marty Sampson was the
Something on Hillsong.
He was one of the lead singers for Hillsong.
Yeah.
And he made a post on his Instagram saying that he was genuinely losing his faith, and said that it didn't bother him, and he wasn't bothered by it, and that preachers were falling all over the place, and miracles weren't happening anymore, all this stuff like that. And those two are not the first musicians that have been labeled as Christians or labeled themselves as Christian musicians that have come out and said that they were no longer Christians. It was a few years ago, the lead frontman for it was a Christian heavy metal band, As I Lay Dying.
Yeah.
I did look that up. That's who it was. He said that not only did he not believe in God, but nobody in the band believed in God, that they were all atheists. And then he actually went on further in that interview where he talked about it. And he said, one of the crazy things is, he said, there's a lot of musicians in the Christian genre that have no faith whatsoever.
Yeah.
And
I can believe that, and that's why I say it's really hard to tell anymore nowadays, because there's some people that are in it just for the money, and maybe they couldn't get into the secular. I think the secular world is a lot harder to get into.
It is.
Than it is the
it's
Christian
a lot harder to
music
stay
world.
on top of it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's like, I feel like if you're trying to cut a record deal and make money, okay, if that's your sole purpose, I feel like you can do that easier in the Christian music world than you can in the secular music world, because in the secular music world there's so many people doing it, and I think that the amount of people doing the Christian music is a lot slimmer, and so maybe you have more of a chance to kind of get out there.
I mean, there was a dude that made a remix of the VeggieTales theme song, and this dude isn't even a musician, but he made a remix of the VeggieTales theme song, and it was like #1 on Apple Music in the Christian music genre for like 2 weeks.
See?
Yeah.
It's like Christians eat up anything that it sounds like something else.
Yeah.
I mean,
If it sounds good, we'll eat it up.
This is true.
If it sounds positive, we'll eat it up.
And I mean, like
And
you were saying, like it's a lot harder to make it in the secular world than it is the Christian music world. I mean, a prime example, Katy Perry.
Yeah.
Like
Good
people have forgotten that Katy Perry actually got her start as a Christian artist.
Yep.
And then transferred over to secular, kissed a girl, she liked it, got with
And
Russell
boom.
Brand, and went crazy.
Yeah. Well, and that's so that.
But
that
she
kind of
wasn't
proves-
making it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Even though she sung awesome songs, and she may have actually believed it. She wanted fame so bad.
Well, she was a PK. She was a pastor's kid.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
she was
just
PK.
eventually just was like, you know what? I'm going to go full out. And like went totally 180,
Mm-hmm.
and it went from "I love you, Jesus" to "I kissed a girl and I liked it." Now I'm on top in the Billboard charts. So I mean,
Well, and that's what I think we really, with music, I think we have to, like I said, number one, be careful about judging the intent, because whether they got into it for money or whether they really were trying to serve the Lord and then got burnt out, okay, because that happens. You get burnt out and then you don't want any part of it anymore. I've seen that happen tons of times.
Yep.
Or number two is being careful about, oh, this is good. Being careful about whether it just makes you emotional or whether that really is drawing you closer to the Lord. Because we can listen to some Lauren Daigle songs and they will make you emotional.
Oh yeah,
okay?
Good
They
point.
will make you emotional. And any music, and I'm not picking on Lauren Daigle. I'm saying any music, Bethel, Hillsong, Elevation, Passion, they all make you emotional.
Journey, Foreigner,
Yeah,
Leonard Skinner.
And it makes you emotional.
Freebird.
Okay? And I think even in church, we have the tendency to go. Sorry. Sorry guys, my kids are trying to ambush this video.
Emotions.
I think even in church, I think we get it mixed up. I think
100%.
Yep.
The church creates this ambiance, and it does make us emotional. And so I think we really, whatever it is that we're doing, we have to check ourselves.
Yep.
Are we really in this to glorify God, or is this just an emotional reaction of me? Am I really worshiping, or is it emotional? Am I really listening to this because it glorifies God, or does it make me feel good in an emotional way?
Come on.
Right.
That's good, buddy.
That is good.
And so I think that's where we have to kind of draw the line, but we have to be honest with ourselves. Okay, is sometimes we will justify what we're listening to or whatever because we don't want to stop.
Yep. Same.
You know what I mean? And this is for me and you. I know we've had these conversations before. Even in my own life. Listening to Dr. Dre, man, that was one of my jams. You know, I used to love listening to Dr. Dre, but I can't justify that.
No.
I cannot justify that. If my kids, it's kind of funny that we're having this conversation because anytime music comes on, Brantley comes up to me and he asks me, he says, "Is that Jesus music, Daddy?" Every time. And I have to be able to tell him yes without lying to him.
That's why I'm so happy that Kanye dropped a Christian album, because I've been a long time Kanye fan. And so now I can listen to Kanye and kids can say, "Is that Christian music?" I'm like, "Not yet."
You probably don't want me on this video talking about it.
Oh, we've had some conversations about some Kanye. Let's hear it, Ted.
Go for it.
Listen, I think it's and this is why
He's
when
a
we
babe
talk about
in Christ. Come on.
Well, being careful about judging people. I don't want to say something because I don't know the man's heart. I don't. But I can tell you what it seems like to me, and I might get hate mail from a few people that watch this maybe, but I think it's a huge PR stunt. And that's me. Okay.
I don't know.
It was big for how long, and I ain't heard nothing about him in a while. But that's what I'm saying. I don't know that, and I honestly, it's hard for me to even speak on that, because how can you really pinpoint what's in somebody's heart? But around that time, this is why I say that. Okay, I'll tell you why I say that. Is because around that time, man, Kanye was getting crazy and everybody was talking about it. Everybody's talking about his rant on TMZ and everybody watched it. Okay. Everybody knew that he's saying all this stuff that didn't make sense, and he's just going nuts in the head, And then all of a sudden, it was right around that time that he starts doing this. Now, I don't know. Maybe his intentions are true, and I hope they are. But man, to me, it seems fishy.
Well, do you remember Mace?
Anytime,
do you remember Mace?
Yeah, I remember Mace.
Mace came back. Mace was with Puff Daddy, with P Diddy, and he was. I liked Mace better than P Diddy or Puff Daddy. I can't call him P Diddy, but anyway, and he eventually became Christian and made a Christian album. And that Christian album was fire. Like, I loved it. I had it on repeat.
I never heard it. I never heard it.
It was good.
It was really good.
And then
I have to check it out.
But about 5, 6, 7 years later, whenever he came back out, all of a sudden there's the same old Mace. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel about Kanye, but I'm trying to give him a benefit of a doubt.
Maybe he's like a country singer that, like, you know, at the end of that country album, they dropped that one like old hymnal song, and then they, you know, then it's a little bit more beers down by the lake and stuff like that.
Yeah, which I mean, I think I'm trying to give the guy a benefit of a doubt, just because I don't know. You never know.
I'm trying, but what I have a problem with is in that one song he has to throw a cuss word in it.
Yep.
And it's like, why?
Yeah, he's got one song.
Why do you have to do that?
Says it's not about a deep religion.
And then as soon as he dropped that album right there, as soon as you drop that album, no, but still though, if I'm trying to glorify God, I don't have a cuss word in my whole album except for one song.
Well, he's got that Joel Osteen.
I want to take an approach at this real quick. Two people come to mind real quick. Not in the music. Well, one of them actually is in the music industry, but never put out like a Christian album or anything like that. Bieber.
Yeah.
And then Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
So both of those guys, Bieber was hanging out with
Hillsong.
Like, he
sings worship songs at his concert.
Yeah. And I mean, but at the same time, he's also went and, you know, been caught out in the media, and they'll ask him about something, and he lets a cuss word fly.
Yeah, just recently.
And
his latest music doesn't really
reflect,
make a good argument for him either.
Exactly.
Right. Oh, but the point I'm getting to, and the same thing happened with Shia LaBeouf. Now, Shia LaBeouf, you know, had some time in the media there where people thought he was just plain crazy, and maybe he is.
I love Shia LaBeouf.
But he talked about becoming born again in Jesus. And then someone asked him about something, and he was like, well, yeah, you know, I just want to do this, and then I do this. And he was like, and then blah, 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 and I do the effing thing, and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, like, just went on. But he dropped the F word. And people were like, well, he's not a Christian. He can't be a Christian.
Right, judging.
Here's the thing. The problem I have with that is you have three people, Kanye, Justin Bieber, Shia LaBeouf, and they are prime examples of what we see in our daily lives. You have the drug addict, the guy that has been addicted to meth, to coke, to heroin his whole life, comes to church, wants to give his life to Jesus, but all people can see is, you know, the track marks and the pop mark face and all this stuff like that. And he goes out in the parking lot after he's done, he lights up a cigarette, and they're like, oh, well, a true follower of Jesus would do that.
Exactly.
Somebody who's a brand new baby in Christ and doesn't
they don't know no better.
They're going to do that.
That's how I feel about
I'm with you as far as that goes, but listen, how long does it take to make an album? It's not an accident.
He put that album
it's not an accident.
About 8 months.
Yeah, but listen to this, Ted. We have been in leadership in churches. We've been trained, like had good examples to go by. Billy Shelton is an awesome mentor. These guys, they don't have that. They're surrounded by the world. They don't have a Billy Shelton. They don't have the Lonnie Whitehead. You know what I'm saying? They don't have that. So they think that what they're doing is still okay. We are, we have been trained up in the way they should go. These people are just now saved and surrounded.
Well, and I think we have to a little bit look at what it means to be a Christian in today's time.
Yeah.
Okay. In today's time, the definition of a Christian is very much misconstrued.
Yes, it
is.
Okay. Because there's a lot of churches out there preaching, if you're a good person.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's a lot of churches out here saying, hey, you cuss, you drink, you do whatever. But if you love the Lord, then you're fine.
That's
okay?
Tell that.
And so that's why I'm saying I'm not judging the man's heart, and I don't even want to step into that territory.
Right.
But I can look at the actions, and this is another thing I'll say is right after he dropped that album, I got on his Instagram page, and there was a video of him effing and GDing and all kinds of stuff. Okay, right after that album dropped, and I think me and Andy actually talked about that before.
Yep.
See, I don't.
The thing is that I am not, whether whatever he means for it to be, I'm not going to point anybody to that, because as soon as, especially teenagers or whatever, who are the main people they're trying to reach? Teenagers. The music, the media, everybody is trying to reach people between 15 and 40.
Right.
Everybody else don't care.
Well, it comes down to it. Would you let your kids listen to it if you knew that's how they was?
No, because this is why. Because it's going to point them to his Instagram page, and then they're going to see something like that, and they're going to think it's okay.
That's me. That's how I feel.
And see,
so
that right there, I can agree with. I think the biggest problem I have, not that I really wanted to get on the subject of Kanye West or anything like that, but I think the biggest problem I have is that people are automatically saying because of Kanye's past,
right?
It's primarily because of his past that he's not a Christian.
Right. We all have pasts.
And every single one of us has got past. And I mean, I'm not saying that Kanye is a Christian artist now. But I mean, if the dude wants to use the skill that he's got, the talent that he's got, and he wants to make an album praising God, then I don't have a problem with that.
I don't either.
Well,
if that album had been dropped by anybody else, like
there has been
the one controversial word in it, if that had been removed and that album was dropped by anybody else, like any Christian rapper that's out there right now, nobody would have batted an eye at it.
True. And I see your point. And I don't want it to sound like I'm saying, hey, because of his past.
No,
I'm just looking at what happened. Yeah. And I'm looking at what happened right then and there in that time frame.
And you're making
sense. But I'll tell you this. Another person who has come out and made a gospel album, and we know it's the Snoop Dogg.
Yep.
Okay. And I won't listen to that for one hot second.
Not a second.
Never did. Because
it just wasn't very good.
Well, it's because it's not anointed and it's not led by God, and I'll stand here and say that right now.
Yep.
Because the man still, every video you look at of him, he's cussing like a sailor. He's smoking a huge blunt right in the camera, and he's what was it? There was a video not too long ago where he's standing there talking to somebody. He's like, F this, F that, and F this, and F that. Okay, what about? Let's get into the comedic world. What about Steve Harvey? He did a stand-up for 1 hour where he couldn't cuss at all in front of church people. Why? For money. Okay, he probably loves the Lord. Okay, and there's a lot of people that love the Lord, but they don't. It just doesn't radiate. Okay, but he even said in the stand-up, he's like, God, I want to cuss so bad right now, but y'all are church people, and I'm not going to do that. And then his next stand-up he did, what was it? F and GD and all this stuff. And it's like, I'm not saying that these people, you can't sit and say that somebody's saved or not saved. Okay.
Right.
That's between them and the Lord. Okay, but there are a few instances where you can say that. But what I can say is the stuff that they're doing in their life is not going to cause me to glorify God.
No.
Right.
No.
Okay. And so that's the stuff that we have to look at is, and more so is not looking to people all the time. I don't know. I was going to go somewhere, and I'm just not going to.
So what you're
travel down that path.
What I'm getting from what you've said is, let's take Steve Harvey. I think Steve Harvey would probably give me the shirt off his back. I think
probably
he would probably be a fun person to hang out with.
Yeah.
I think that I love Family Feud. I know that the Bible says that none are good. But in our eyes, how we judge people, I think Andy's a pretty good person. I think you are. I would say Steve Harvey is, a pretty good person. But the thing about it is there's a difference in good people, like how we see good people, not how the Bible says good people. There's a difference in good people and an actual follower of Christ.
Exactly.
And that's how I feel. The definition of the new day Christian is to be good people. Like them's good people.
Be a good person.
Yeah.
To be a good person. And I was talking with somebody the other day, and they said that. They said, and they told me, I'm not where I need to be with the Lord, but I'm a good person.
See?
And I told him right now, right on the spot, I said, the Bible says that if you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that Jesus died and rose again on the third day to save me and to save you, then we're saved. Okay? But are you living after Christ? And that the thing I think as a leader, as a minister, it's a little bit more difficult for us when we get on these conversations, because everything we do and everything we point people to has to glorify God.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 100%.
Okay? Has to. And anything, if I point somebody to Kanye West, if I'm going to talk about Kanye West, that means I am
reflects you.
If I say, hey, listen to Kanye West album, then that means I am condoning everything he does.
Exactly.
Okay? As a minister, as a leader. Okay? And so what happens? Then a whole church, if I'm standing behind the pulpit and say that, a whole church goes and looks at his Instagram. Okay? And then they see videos and they're like, oh my God, this is what the minister in the church pointed me to?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Or worse, they see it and they don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
And they start to emulate it themselves.
And it could be something that you didn't even mean for them to think's okay.
Right.
But
and so you're being an example without being the example.
Exactly.
You know, you're being the example by watching what you man, I still can't think about what that word is. What I condone, what I advertise, what I can't think what the word is.
Well, I mean that's the same thing with music. If we listen to something that we don't want our pastor to listen to, if we listen to something that we don't want our kids to listen to, then then why do we feel like it's good to tell a congregation? Why do we feel good that it's to tell people that we're close to? Why do we feel good listening to it at all if our pastor can't listen to it and our kids can't listen to it? Because even though Billy was sheltered, and I'm not talking bad about Billy. Billy, grew up not being able to listen and do a lot of the things that we listened to and grew up with. Yeah. But, I'm not saying that there's not songs that we grew up with that would be bad for him to listen to. No. Just because, the Temptations, even heck, there's certain Aerosmith songs. There's certain, there's all kinds of songs that wouldn't be bad for Billy to listen to, for my kids to listen to. Now, the thing about you saying if you tell the church to go listen to Kanye West, it reflects on everything of him. Now that right there, we need to take into consideration.
Well, we have to. We have to.
At the same
time, if I tell people to go listen to Aerosmith or anybody, and I'm not just bragging on these few people. If we tell people to go look at the Eagles or Journey or anybody, Queen, okay? Oh my gosh, the stuff that they were into. Yeah, but nobody knew about it.
Queen has some legendary songs. Legendary songs.
I think Queen is one of the greatest tragedies to the Christian world.
Yes.
Because they had some of the best music. Listen, I'm just going to throw it out there. Freddie Mercury
is one of the best singers to ever live.
I'm not even going to say one of the best. I think Freddie Mercury is the best vocalist to ever grace the face of this earth in the last 100 years. And it's a shame. Because I love Freddie Mercury's music.
Yeah,
but I can't love Freddie Mercury's life.
I can't love his life.
Not at all. And listen, there's things, man, in everybody's life. Okay. And Billy Shelton says this all the time, and I agree with this 100%. Jesus said that if you even have thoughts towards a woman, then you're an adulterer.
In your heart.
Then you're an adulterer. If you've ever had hate towards a man, you're a murderer. If you've ever took anything, you're a thief.
That ain't just what Billy says. That's what the Bible says.
If you've ever wanted something of another man's, you are a thief. And so in that regard, we are all lying, adulterous murderers. Okay? And when we put ourselves all down on this level playing field, then nobody's good. Okay? Exactly. I can't even, there's probably something on my Facebook that you could dredge up from 10 years ago or something. I don't know. Or my old MySpace. Oh God, my old MySpace. Ugh. Woo.
I don't even know. I don't even want to know what's on.
I'm locked out of my old MySpace, and it says I'm still married to my ex-wife.
I can't even remember my password or my username, and I thank God, because if I saw what was on that MySpace, I'd probably feel like I need to get saved all over again.
And that's the thing right there. With all these musicians that we've talked about, everybody's got that MySpace page. Even the best of us have got that MySpace page.
That's a good point.
That is from 10, 15, 20 years ago. And, you're not the same person that you were back then.
I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago.
No, definitely not.
Exactly.
So, Ted, I think we've hit this pretty good. I want to ask you a couple of follow-up questions just to kind of close us out here. I'm going to ask Johnny the same thing. First one, favorite praise and or worship song?
Oh man. Right now or just in general? Let's go with right now. My favorite song right now is Graves into Gardens by Elevation. That is my jam, and I'll jam it all day long and never get tired of it.
Okay. All right. I like that. Question number 2. Favorite style of Christian music?
Worship music. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Question number 3, last question. Do you prefer secular or Christian music?
I thought that question was going a different direction.
Oh, Lord.
I prefer Christian music, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on this video. I do prefer it because it puts my mind and my heart in the space that it needs to be in every day. I know this sounds like probably a cliche answer, but you asked me a cliche question. So the thing is that I would much rather. I'm not going to sit here and lie, and I'll tell everybody that watches this video, there are times where I listen to other music. Okay, I will not lie about that. But my favorite is just good worship music, because that puts my heart and my mind where it needs to be to serve God on a daily basis. And that's what we're trying to do. You know what I mean? We're trying to serve the Lord. That's why we have breath in our lungs. And so my favorite has got to be just some good worship music, and especially while I'm playing it. Oh my God.
And I'll touch on that real quick. Something that you just reminded me of. A few years ago, a friend of mine and I, we were having a conversation about just music in general. I love talking about music. And at the time, one of my favorite groups to listen to was just the Dave Matthews Band. I loved the Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah,
and if I have to be honest, like, I still love the Dave Matthews Band. Just the way that they put that music together. And, you know, I am a saxophone lover. I always will be. And Leroy Moore was, in my opinion, one of the best saxophone players to ever walk the face of this earth, outside of like some, you know, guys from Dave Brubeck and stuff like that. But we talked about, sorry, I went a little nerdy there, but anywho.
Michael Bolton. I don't know. Kenny G.
Kenny G.
That's
Michael
it.
Bolton just sings.
Yeah,
they both look.
Hey, don't hate on no Kenny G.
Oh,
well, hey, that's just the only one I know.
The funny thing is,
okay.
as a saxophone player, if you really get in, like if you start playing the saxophone and talk to other saxophone players, you will find out that we all collectively hate Kenny G. I don't mean that as like I actually have hate in my heart for the man, but we have a general dislike for him because the man has made himself popular by playing the instrument out of the wrong part of his mouth, and that just drives me nuts. Because I never could, like, I could stick it out of the corner of my mouth and it would just sound like a chicken fart. And I don't like that. But anywho, we were talking about the Dave Matthews Band and why he was talking about some of his favorite music. And it was, you know, he was kind of like you. He was like, you know, I listen to worship music. I only listen to worship music. I only listen to stuff on K-Love. And I was like, well, why? I was like, why do you only do that? Because I knew that this guy had listened to other stuff. And he looked at me and he said, well, I learned that what I listen to influences what my mind is set on.
Yeah.
And the Bible tells us to keep our minds set on the ways of the Lord, set on the things of the Lord.
The good things.
The good things. And he was like, so by listening to those things, I'm reminded of the things that Jesus has done for me and that Jesus is doing in my life. So, I mean, yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Like your music is a gateway to the soul.
Music affects my mood easy.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Yep.
And
yeah, it does.
I like it. I mean, I like feeling indulging into how I feel. Like if I'm happy, I want to listen to a happy song. If I'm sad, you know, sometimes I just
want to listen to real chill, mellow stuff.
Real chill, something like that. Now, the older and more spiritually mature that I've got, I know not to let myself listen to certain songs like I used to, because then I will just go down a rabbit hole, and then you won't find spiritual Johnny for another 6 months.
2 weeks. Right.
I mean, seriously, I will go way down in it. I'm just saying.
I had that problem. I had that problem recently. Like it was a few months ago. I don't remember what song it was, but it was a Tenacious D song, and it was one of their songs where they don't cuss and they don't talk about nasty stuff in there. And I just remember I was like, oh, I love this. And like I even called Johnny up. I was like, this is what I've been listening to today. And then the next thing I know, like I was just listening to inappropriate stuff. And I mean, like I really did have to check myself on it. One of my favorite bands is Stained. I love Aaron Lewis. His voice is amazing. But when
his voice is really good.
I get in the mood to listen to them, I go into a rabbit hole, and it's hard for me to come out.
All right, so Johnny,
you cannot listen to their new music that they're going to come out with.
I didn't know they was coming out with new music.
Well, thanks, Ted. Yep. Now you've sent him down a rabbit hole.
No, it's okay. Like I've got a conscience when it comes to music now that I think
that you didn't have before.
That I didn't have before. Like I know, like honestly, I may check it out, but I may not last 30 seconds in it because my conscience draws me away, and that's something that I have prayed for, and God.
I think that's the underliner for the whole conversation is, does it point you to God? Does it point you to thinking about good things? Does it point you to a mindset of worship, of gratitude, of thankfulness to God? To God, okay? Not are we thankful for our wife and all that stuff. And listen, I'll be the first to tell you, and Johnny knows this, and you know it too. Listen, I love some R&B music, okay?
Old school.
I love some old school R&B music, but I'm talking about wholesome. Like man, I mean, yeah, there's those nasty songs out there, but I'm talking about some Luther, okay, some Brian McKnight, okay. I love that stuff. But does it still yet? It may not be talking about drinking and drugs and all that stuff, but does it point me to Christ?
Exactly, and that's a good point. That's a good point.
All right, so Johnny, favorite worship song?
Right now, your mom does a good version of this song, The Blessing. Carrie Hacker does a good version of it, The Blessing. And I think that song is more effective in a church than it even is on the radio.
Yeah. I don't even like listening to the radio. I don't want to say hate. I don't like K-Love.
But my favorite worship song of all time it's gotta be, Hannah Whitehead's version of All My Worship. That's the most intimate song to God, giving myself to God that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And literally every time she does it, plays that song, sings that song, even hits the first note, and I know that song's coming, I break down, and it's hard for me to play.
Listen, so you threw out your favorite of all time, so I want to do the same thing before we wrap this up. I'd say I have to think about it for a second, but my ultimate favorite worship song, it's called As the Deer. And if you go back, listen, Eddie James does a version of this.
Psalms 93.
Okay? As the deer
Pants for water.
Oh my gosh.
Song's good.
Listen, if you listen to Eddie James' version, the man starts praying and speaking in tongues and crying and everything while he's singing that. Oh, Lord.
Waymaker's killer right now, too.
I just got goosebumps thinking about that, man. Like, it makes me want to go listen to it.
I like it. So got favorite worship song. Johnny, favorite style of Christian music?
My favorite style of Christian music is the dynamic worship style, the elevation, the Hillsong, the kind I like dynamic songs, some that build up, that crescendo, that gets real soft, that gets, to me, it's more about the music. And if the music's right, then, most of the time the words don't even really, I don't want to say they don't matter, but if the music,
see, that's where I was.
If the music's right, as if you're talking about God, it's going to hit you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think, just me and my old school opinion, I think besides like old school hymns and stuff like that, then to me, the rest of the worship, the Christian genre is kind of garbage.
That's fair.
Yeah. That's fair.
Whenever it comes to rock, there's better sounding rock out there. When it comes to rap, there's better sounding rap out there. Whenever it comes to R&B, there's better sounding R&B out there. Everything is leaps and bounds better sounding in the secular world. And
it does.
His last question, what would you rather listen to?
Do you prefer secular or do you prefer
Christian?
I
prefer secular or do I prefer Christian? Me as a musician, if the music's better, yeah, I prefer secular. And whenever I want to listen to a guitar solo, I listen to Jimi Hendrix. I listen to, other big name bands that, guitar legends. Like me, I follow guitar players more than I follow bands. I follow lyricists, but more than I follow rappers. It's it's different elements of the flow, of the style, of the. I'm a huge one with dynamics. Like if someone is going hardcore the whole time, I'm not real huge on it. Now, don't get me wrong. Do I listen to hardcore screaming music? Yeah, I always have, and I probably always will. Do my kids like it? Yeah, but I always check the lyrics. I don't go by just what it sounds on that, because even though I understand most of the lyrics, there could be something slipped in there.
Yep.
And but I prefer secular music. Now, that don't get me wrong. I still worship with worship music. But most of the time, whenever I'm listening to music, it goes by my mood.
Yep.
I've been listening to a song called "Hungry Eyes" all day, and it's from that old school movie,
Dirty Dancing.
Dirty Dancing.
No, was it Dirty Dancing? Yeah, it was Dirty Dancing.
But the reason why I like the dude's tone of voice, I like the piano in it.
You like saying about Patrick Swayze? It
sounds like it's got a unique sound. And I listen to songs that most people don't.
I'm going to go home and watch Ghost now.
Well, I'm just saying, like, random songs.
Whoopee.
Like Tina Turner. What's love got to do with it? She was beat.
Listen.
She was beat by Ike. If you've ever heard the story of Ike and Tina.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she was with him for a long time, and it had nothing to do with love. And that's basically just her story. It's kind of a testimony.
What's love got to do with it?
Dude, that song has killer bass. See, that's the kind of things
Brantley's been walking around the house singing, I want to dance with somebody. I don't even know how. I have no idea how he even knows the words to it.
Hurt your wife. Go have a talking with your wife about the music she's letting them listen to.
What are you listening to, boy? I will say, I wanted to say this earlier. I know we got to wrap this up. I got to eat something. I will say this, and I was going to say it earlier, and I think this is one of the biggest keys to everything, okay, is if it is really used by God, it will be anointed. And it will be anointed for a purpose, okay? And the purpose should be to point people to Him. But it will be anointed regardless of what we think or how we feel about it. If it is really called by God, it will be anointed. You cannot step into our church and not feel the anointing, the presence of God. Okay? That means we are truly, truly glorifying Him, and that's what it's all about.
Right.
Now, what about you?
So, favorite worship song, because I am going to break this down into right now and then all time. Favorite worship song right now is Ain't No Grave. The Bethel redo of Ain't No Grave. Is that right, Bethel?
Yeah.
Molly Skaggs getting up there on that song.
Oh, man.
I can't, there's not a time where I can listen to that song and not just feel the spirit inside of me, and I just want to just shout and I love it. But my favorite worship song of all time, and I'm very specific about this one, the Eddie James version of No Longer Slaves, just him and the piano. If you guys,
it's on that same album, I think.
It probably is. Dude, he's getting into it, and he gets so caught up in the spirit, he breaks out in tongues, and he's just going at it. And it just sends chills down to my spine every time I hear that song.
Yeah. Good, man.
So
good
my
stuff.
favorite. Now, with that being said, excuse me, sorry. My favorite style of Christian music, just because I don't necessarily look at what necessarily draws me closer to God, but what can I listen to all the time without feeling any kind of guilt about it?
Yeah.
I listen to Christian hip hop. I listen to Andy Mineo probably more than anybody. A lot of
more than anybody.
Misfits, some Lecrae, Trip Lee, Marty.
Trip Lee's good.
Album. That was Johnny.
Trip Lee's good.
Song called Kingdom Music.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Johnny Bill. with his Kingdom Music album. That was good.
Hey, that song was
JB.
That song was good. I don't care what nobody says.
That song was good. I told you. Hey,
It was pretty good. Now, to answer the last question, do I prefer secular to Christian music? My heart wants to listen. No, my mind wants to listen to secular music. You would not find me complaining to listen to a Foo Fighters album at any given time. But kind of like I talked about earlier with the conversation that my friend and I had, 9 times out of 10, I will listen to Christian music because I always want to try to at least keep my mind focused on the things of the Lord. So that's.
And I think if we're all being honest, we could actually give that same answer. Our mind wants to go to the secular. Our flesh wants to go to the secular, and we have to train ourselves, like what you're talking about.
Yeah. Like the flesh wants the secular. I mean, there's still days where like stuff comes up on YouTube or the radio or on Facebook, and I'm like, that's my jam.
You're like, what?
You think this is a game? Ow. But people don't know that X is going to give it to you.
I can't believe you just did that.
Hey, but for real, Ted, we thank you so much, man, for especially it being last minute.
Yep.
Jumping on here. I didn't really, I heard you say something that you would be a good one to jump on this, and you're totally right.
Yeah.
You was an awesome addition to this, just because
Thank you.
I'm on one spectrum of Christian music, he's on the other, and you are on a totally different, like we're all on different planets.
Right.
That's why, maybe the hard rockers that grew up listening to Slipknot, Metallica, and all them, and even like Ludacris and all them, like me, and he, I know that you listen to some of that, but everybody is totally different. Like, I know that we've all changed, but this was awesome. This is one of our best, in my opinion, podcasts that we've ever had.
Good, that's awesome.
COVID-19 was awesome with Billy, but I think this one right here is right up there. I think it was very interesting, and we thank you so much.
Thanks,
man,
bro.
for jumping on this.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I just like the fact that somebody wanted to hear my opinion on it. I think that always makes people feel loved, and it makes you feel good when somebody thinks to say, "Hey, let's get Ted on this and see what he thinks." That always makes your heart feel warm.
And if you guys at home are wanting to hear more of Ted Whitehead, unfortunately he doesn't have an official website yet, but that may be coming one day. Who knows? But I know that you can go to facebook.com/redemptionky, and Ted has a lot of sermons on there that are amazing to listen to, with some truly deep stuff. And if you ever get a chance, come and talk to him here. He's over at 101 Calvary Court in London, Kentucky. That's where Redemption Church is at. You will find him there most Sundays and Wednesdays now that he has moved back from the outer depths of Oklahoma. And we're just glad you're back, man. I can't wait to stand around and have some more conversations with Ted.
Oh yeah, and this definitely won't be the last time that he jumps on. I mean, I've had a lot of fun today.
Definitely.
And
this is good.
Kind of a controversial topic where everybody's opinions are going to be different. So different
but kind of the same.
Different but kind of the same. We're going to have to do this again, man.
Hey, I'm down, man. I'm down for real. Thank you, guys.
Anything else that you want to say before we jump off?
Man, just anybody that's listening or watching, I just want to say, always make sure that you're striving to be better. I know we all fall, and the Bible says that everybody falls short of the glory of God, and but a righteous man will get back up. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is we all fall short, and we will never ever be good enough, but just always strive to be better. And don't let anybody tell you who you are. Be who God has called you to be, and be secure in that.
Yeah, that's right.
Amen, brother. All right, Ted. Well, we're going to go, man. Thank you once again for joining us. And for everybody at home, stay beardy.
Stay beardy.
Stay bearded. Peace.